going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of Trekporial, and this one is definitely not A New Hope.
No,
It's
it is
probably
not.
it's probably the opposite of that. So, welcome everybody, and let's give a warm welcome to Master Paul, who has agreed to be my special guest star for today.
Thank you for having me, man. I always love talking about Lord of the Rings with you.
Lord of the Rings, interesting. I kind of wonder. I kind of wonder if there'll be I'd love to see a frickin' I'd love to see a frickin' crossover one of these days. The elves.
Yeah,
Spock is actually a long lost elf, and and he teaches them all how to do mind melds,
I
and
could see that.
the neck pinches and all that. So, but yeah. So everybody, welcome. I see Leia Rose is in the chat. Welcome. She says a mock time is one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek. Okay,
Mine
yeah,
too.
that's it's definitely one of the most important. And we have Agent Atwood. What's up, Huo? What's up? And of course, I saw stuff from like Spock earlier and DJ Ronnie G. So yeah, if you guys can join, that'd be great. And speaking of the devil, is this the episode of Star Trek where Kirk wears a baseball cap? I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm just doing it because I didn't brush my hair today.
Yeah, so yeah, but are you ready to get started on
I am,
top
yes.
five? So I'm curious how you went ahead and selected your episodes because when it comes to cheesiness, it's very subjective.
That is true. And before I even get into that, I do want to, at least for me, make something clear. To me, cheesy doesn't always mean bad. Just about every one of these episodes on here, there is something that I like, even if it's the entire episode. But kind of getting into your question, what I determine as cheesy is A, Shatner's overacting, that is a big factor, and B, the ridiculousness of the situation that we're in.
I can totally buy that. So, it's the same for me. It's basically the overacting of the cast or episodes that require overacting or just complete just complete absurdity. I'll say.
Hmm.
And of course because of the fact that the budget was very limited for TOS, some of the costumes might not might not come off as believable and stuff.
Hmm.
There's one particular that I'm thinking of right now, and that's going to be my number 5, but we'll get to that. And of course, the just the dialogue and stuff. So, but yeah, so let's kick this off with let's kick this off with
Look what Crit's saying in the chat right now.
hash at Justice for Picard. He can punch better than Kirk. At why does Paul need a starship? Well, let's
That
just
is a
say that I'll say this: Doctor Soran kicked the crap out of Picard, and Kirk managed to get get a punch on him. So, just
yeah.
saying. All right, so Paul, let's start with you. What is your number 5?
Well, before we get into my number 5, I actually do have an honorable mention, and
We
that
usually do
is
those. We usually do those in between one and
oh
two. So,
oh okay, sorry.
yeah, so that's fine.
All right. So number 5 for me is Spock's brain. And this is the textbook definition of just an absolutely absurd, ridiculous situation where this primitive race of humanoids, where the female is the dominant species, decide that they need something to control their lives. So one of them beams aboard the Enterprise and steals Spock's physical brain right out of his head somehow. And yet that doesn't kill Spock. Pretty much for the majority of the episode, his body is rendered a brainless zombie that has to be controlled like an RC car. Yeah, with that thing that he has on his head, that's like the antenna for him. And then, just the idea of them having to find it and reattach it back in his head.
Didn't you like how they showed this particular clip right here? Like they have him facing 90 degrees, then he turns, and then it just zooms in and plays this really dramatic music. Like you're supposed to be, ooh, it's Spock, but
Hmm.
he can still look and he can still stare and stuff. You know,
Yes.
every time and they did this twice in the episode, twice. They do it here and they do it below. They do it below with the women and stuff because when the what's her name, Kara, the leader of the Imorgs, because I know these
Hmm.
things, she pushes the button. I think it's the green button, and it makes that little sound, and everybody gets knocked out. Well, it doesn't knock him out because he doesn't have a brain. So he just stare. For some reason, he's staring at her, and she's like gets freaked out about it and stuff. So
Yes. And speaking of her, she definitely even though Shatner is the undisputed goat of overacting, she kind of overacted in this episode too, especially with the iconic line of "Brain, brain, what is brain?"
controller, is it not?
Yeah.
In the way it is, the human brain controls the autonomic functions.
Yes. And then at the very end, because apparently how they get their intelligence is literally by downloading the information directly into their brain with this one dome thing. I can't remember what it's called.
The
And
teacher,
then the teacher, yes.
yeah,
And McCoy does that in order to learn how to do brain surgery on a Vulcan. And then halfway through, he forgets, and Spock literally has to talk him through doing surgery on his own brain.
I will never let this down. This Vulcan is telling me how to operate. Okay, I have to address Everest Productions thing. It says which is worse, Spock's brain or Code of Honor?
Code of Honor,
There
easily.
is there's a better episode that is on my list that would actually be more appropriate to say it. It's not Spock's brain, but I will tell you because there's an episode that has something to do with that thing that rhymes with base and something that would never fly today. It might have
Hmm.
something to do with whips and stuff too. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's up there. This episode's definitely on my list. I just won't tell you where it's located until we get back to it. So, you have
Of course.
anything else you want to share about this particular delight of an episode?
Just that I should have never done it, Jim. I should have never reconnected his mouth.
Well, we took the risk, Doctor.
That's all I got for now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's your number 5. Okay. So my number 5 is Shore Leave. On account, and I was thinking long and hard about this, but there was just one thing. There was just one thing that made me choose this right away. This, this
Yeah.
costume, like holy crap! Like this is like something like this is something like my friend's brother would wear to entertain my friend's son because I saw a picture not too long ago and he was dressed up as the Easter Bunny, and this is exactly what I think of. So, and of course you hear, "Oh, my paws and whiskers, I'll be late," and stuff. So basically, what's going on? The context of this episode basically is the crew is tired. Working in space is a lot. I mean, being in space, working on a starship is one of the hardest jobs you can get. It's basically, hey, we have to keep these systems intact. We have to keep ourselves from, dying in space because it just takes a lot of work and a lot of effort to maintain everything, maintain, the environments, maintain, the ship's condition and stuff. And if you get stuck somewhere, you're screwed. So I mean, it's a lot of
Hmm.
stress, and I mean, and Kirk, is like is the best captain of the fleet. It's the flagship, and his being on the Enterprise is one of the more demanding, tasks and stuff. So they go to this planet. They're surveying it. They're like, you know what? This is beautiful. There's no bugs. There's no animals of any kind. But here's the funny thing. There's a scene later on where you do see a bugs because they're shooting this outside on planet California,
Hmm.
which is my favorite thing to call it. But you see a bug. You see a bug really briefly in the scene. So unless they thought of that bug, and that bug was reproduced by the planet. So basically, this planet has the ability to basically take what you're thinking about and manufacture it really quickly, and then send it off to the planet to the person that thinks it. so that the person can do whatever it wants with it, play with it, fight it, kiss it. You know, it's a weird, it's a trippy, weird little episode.
It is.
But I do praise the imagination of the writer. I think
Yeah.
who wrote this one? Oh, Ted Sturgeon wrote this one. So he's another big famous sci-fi author and stuff. So
And of course, the idea that whatever you think of becomes reality. This isn't the last time that we see that, because there is an episode in the Next Generation season 1 that takes this idea, but it's in a much more scary context. I can't remember what the episode's called, but it's the one that has the traveler and he accidentally sends them well beyond the confines of our galaxy to another galaxy where what you think of is made real.
where no one has gone before. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I could see that. Here's fun fact though. They do come back to this planet in the animated show. And you get to see the inner workings of the planet. So you get to see like the alien. So we know we meet the old man, the caretaker of this place, and of course he's like, hey, do you want to like form relations and stuff like that? Like, yeah, we're too advanced for you. You're not gonna understand us. So they kind of the end of this episode they kind of part ways, but they come back to the planet in the animated show. And he's dead, and there's no one basically running the planet, so they have to like I believe they have to shut everything down. I haven't watched the episode in a while, so I don't remember exactly what happens. But with it being animated and stuff, it would make they would be able to get away with more ideas and stuff that wouldn't work in live action. So
Right.
but yeah, like this episode had it all. Yeah, I mean, McCoy runs into the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland, of course, Alice herself, a little blonde girl, and then of course, Kirk runs into his old nemesis Finnegan from Starfleet Academy, and I never realized this before, but Finnegan is Irish, and he fits the stereotype of Irish in this episode. Because when you think Irish, you think you're gonna get a fist in your face and stuff. That's because that's how the Irish do things. They just punch each other and stuff, which is not true. But it's just a stereotype. Just saying. So, but that was funny. And they're fighting. Kirk has his. This is best episode of Kirk having his shirt ripped and stuff. I have to make a top 5 episodes of all the top 5 episodes of Kirk having his shirt ripped and stuff. That would be an interesting topic. I don't even know if there's enough episodes to meet that, but we could see. So
Maybe.
But yeah, that's my number 5. So what's your before that, I just wanted to say McCoy dies in this episode, or we think he dies. He gets impaled, or he gets jousted by a knight. And the knight turns out to be a dummy, a great big dummy and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And caretakers never even watched Sanford and Son. Just saying.
That is true. Okay, so my number 4. So I already said the 2 criteria that I went into with this list is A, the ridiculous situation that the characters are put in, and B, overacting. I would say that Spock's brain is very heavy on the ridiculous situation. My number 4 is very heavy on the overacting, and that is Turnabout Intruder. Because William Shatner as Captain Kirk pretending to be a woman in Kirk's body is just peak cringe and hilarity. Especially in the ending scene when the entire bridge crew is rebelling against his more and more hysterical orders, and he's just like, "You will obey my orders! I will have you killed for this!" That's
yeah, I remember that.
But then he's like, as the spirits start to switch back.
Yeah, whoever came up with this episode, I don't know what the heck. This episode was ridiculous, but it's so funny. You just watch the way Shatner's acting in this, and he's trying to be all feminine. It's just, oh my gosh, oh my. he's trying to like flirt with Doctor what's his name, Doctor Coleman. Yeah, Doctor Coleman. And he starts talking like that, and I'm just like, and Shannon didn't
Yes.
look. He didn't look happy to be doing that either. So he's like, oh, I'm glad this is. I'm glad this project is finally
Yes.
coming to an end.
But at the same time, though, there is one scene in this episode that I do genuinely like, and that is a scene where Scotty and McCoy are talking privately just after Spock's court-martial, and Scotty tells to McCoy, "Doctor, I've seen the captain happy, sad, drunk, but I've never seen him stark, raven, hysterical." And then they think about potentially mutinying against the captain. But just the way that Scotty says that is amazing, and I wish they had put that in a more serious episode.
We're talking about a mutiny, Scotty. Are you ready for the vote? Yes, I am. And then they get their whole conversation was recorded. Their whole conversation was recorded and stuff. So they're like, "Hey, we're gonna put you to death." Well, no, the death penalty is forbidden. There's only one exception: General Order 4, and it has not been violated by any officer of the Enterprise.
Yes. Which reminder for what General Order 4 is, basically don't go to Talos 4.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I keep forgetting that's not General Order 1. General Order 1 is the Prime Directive. I just have to start remembering general orders and stuff for Trek. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. So, anything else? I know like
Hey, I just thought of something. That would actually be a pretty good, interesting video, going through each of the general orders of Starfleet and breaking them down.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, people. I've been noticing other channels have been like, going through like, like all the phaser fights, all the torpedo fights, like, just every like aspect of Star Trek and stuff. So, yeah, that'd actually be a very good idea, and heck, go through all the rules of acquisition from the Ferengi. There's like, I don't think they've ever covered all of them, but there's supposed to be 285 of them. So, so yeah, but that's your number 4.
That is my number 4.
All right, well, okay, so my number 4 is an episode. It's basically the second appearance of a character that we've all grown to love after one season, and that's, of course, Harry Mudd. And, of course, the episode I'm talking about is I'm Mudd. So,
Yes.
basically, what happens in this episode, this is a Season 2 episode, second episode that follows up on Mudd's Women. It's one of the few TOS episodes that actually follows up on something else, but it still manages to be its own episode. So basically what happens is they let this one crewman on board named Norman. He just walks around. He's very emotionless. McCoy doesn't. There's something about him that kind of sets McCoy the wrong way and stuff. And Spock's like, "Oh, no, seems normal to me. Maybe he's not. Maybe he doesn't like you. Maybe he doesn't like. Maybe he's terrified of your beads and rattles. Spock
Right.
being making fun of McCoy and stuff."
And he says that right after McCoy says the amazing line, "There's just something not right about a man who never basically lets his emotions show and never lets his conversation vary from the routine of the day and won't go into his background." Pretty much
Yeah.
the perfect description of Spock.
Yeah.
And then as Spock walks away, he's like, "Spock, I'm sorry. It's different when it's a human. The ears make all the difference."
Yes, yeah, I love that, and of course, so we see Norman. Apparently, Norman is up to something. He basically walks into auxiliary control. The guy's like, "Hey, you're not supposed to be in there." He just moves his arm slowly and just gives a slow chop, just a slow chop to the neck, and the guy is just out. So like, oh, this guy's not human. A slow chop like that wouldn't do anything. And then of course, he basically locks out auxiliary control. Then he goes to engineering and taps into that. Basically attacks Scotty and everybody else, and you could tell it was not him. It was clearly a stuntman that was doing that. So, basically what happens is he basically sets it. So they force the Enterprise to a new destination, and if they set up like a trigger relay or something. So if they attempt to try to circumvent that, then the ship will explode and stuff, and they don't know where the trigger is. So the trigger's basically on the planet that they're en route to.
Right.
Well, So basically, Norman reveals himself to Kirk. He says, "Hey, I've taken over your ship. There's nothing you can do about it," and he just shuts himself off. And then they arrive at the planet. It's a K class planet, so there's no. It's not class M, so there's no oxygen. It's not You can't just go outside and stuff. The buildings are all pressure domed and stuff. That's the only way you could exist there. So they beam down to this planet, and of course it's Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Uhura, and Chekhov initially. They go in and they find out, oh, the one that's been given the orders is, well, the king himself, Harry Mudd. Harry Mudd's back.
Mm-hmm.
And Kirk's like, Harry Mudd, I don't believe it. And Chekhov's like, you know this man, Captain? Of course I do. Hardcore Fenton Mudd, swindler, con man, rogue. He's like, did I leave you with that impression? Hey, I thought we had you arrested, Mudd. Oh yeah, but I got out, and I tried to sell. I tried to commit fraud against the people on Denim too. Selling them fake Vulcan patents and stuff. So that we get a little bit of an explanation why he's there, and he just finds those. Yeah, basically he escapes custody. He can't navigate, so he ends up on this planet, and then of course all these androids just turn up, and then they serve him. And the thing is, and I'm sure they've talked about this in other Star Trek and other types of entertainment, but when you're like king, or whenever you're being served long enough without really doing anything, it gets old and it gets monotonous, and you just want to get the heck out. And this is basically This is basically Mudd right now. He wants to get out. He wants to go back to civilization. He'd rather be a criminal. Than be served any longer and stuff. So what's funny is in this episode, Mudd thinks that he's controlling the androids when in fact it's the other way around. The androids are actually manipulating him into believing that. So when he's like, please take my bags up to the ship, they're like, no, my Lord Mudd. Why? Because we're here to serve you, and we're gonna take over the galaxy, and we're gonna serve them too. And they're like, oh no, you're gonna turn the galaxy into purgatory.
Yep.
This is purgatory for a man like me and stuff.
Yes.
Everything's going to be clean and sanitized.
I do got to mention one great exchange that Kirk has with everyone, where Kirk asks Chekhov, what do you think? And Chekhov's like, we're in a lot of trouble, Captain. And then McCoy's like, well, we are in a lot of trouble. And Kirk's like, fine, Spock, what do you think? And don't say we're in a lot of trouble.
Well, we are.
Yes. And then the way this episode ends with literally everyone just clowning around to make the androids' brains fry, especially at the very end when they make Norman's brain fry, where everyone, even Mudd, pretty much collaborates on this big performance art, is the best way I can call it, where they just do the most nonsensical things possible. And it ends with the whole, everything Harry Mudd tells you is a lie. Now listen here, Norman. I am lying.
And then if you lie about everything, then you're never telling the truth. But if you tell the truth, then you're lying. Illogical.
Yes.
But I thought the funniest one that I laughed at was this guy's like, "Oh, I'm sick and tired of happiness. It's killing me. Kill me. And then they take their, they point their fingers, and you hear the. Yeah, you hear the sound effect, the wacky sound effect. But yes. the thing was, like, the androids were like if that was a prison, that would be like the most benevolent prison ever. Like they're free to walk around the place, they're free to do whatever they want, and any questions they have will be answered by the androids. And of course, the androids don't believe that they have any hope of escaping. That's why they're willing to entertain them and stuff.
Yes. Now, I have a question before we moved on. That little performance art stunt that Kirk and the crew pulled on Norman, do you think that would have had the same result if they pulled it on Data?
No. I don't think so. I think Data has a better understanding, and Data can adapt.
Right. Plus, Data learned from Joe Piscopo about comedy.
Exactly. So yeah, I think Data is one of a kind. I mean, And that's kind of why I see like
Technically
that they,
two of a kind.
well, if you want to get technical, three of a kind. But like like in the new stuff, they're like making androids that look just like. I mean, they have different actors, obviously, but they're making androids that look just like Data, and they're making it like a common thing. And the thing was, Data was unique, and they never tried to replicate him. So I kind of once again think that was a big mistake on their part. But then again, that's not just one mistake. They made a lot. They've been making a lot of them. So, but yeah, that's my number 4 is Imud, and of course they leave Harry on the planet. And one fun note to go with is Harry basically created an android version of his wife that always nagged at him, always bugged him, treated like nagged at
Harcourt
him,
Fenton Mudd, what are you up to? No
and
good, I assume.
he only built her so that he could tell her to shut up because she lives inside his mind. Well, I'm gonna be honest. By the end of the episode, I thought our heroes, the crew, I thought they were the villains by leaving him there with her. And he's like, "There's one, there's number one, there's number two, and then the third one says, 'Oh no, not number 5,' like that and stuff." And they're yelling at him. He's like, "Kirk, this is inhuman," and he's right. It is inhuman. And they're like, "Oh, see you, Harry. Bye," and they leave. But then again, Harry wasted their time by doing this in the first place. So yeah,
Yep.
but that's my number 4.
So my number 3 is Spectre of the Gun. And this one kind of has both of a ridiculous situation and a good bit of overacting from Kirk. So this one, for anyone that doesn't remember, is the one where Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Scotty, and Chekhov get sent to a sort of halfway recreation of the gunfight at the OK Corral in Tombstone, Arizona. Basically,
Yeah.
this is their punishment for ignoring the warnings of the Melkotians, not to go any further toward their planet. And so they decide to punish them. They're going to kill them in the same manner that Kirk's ancestors, in the same way that they were savage.
Yeah.
And this one, it has just ridiculous scenarios where we see Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Chekhov, and Scotty as themselves, although replace the phasers on their hips with 6-shooters. But everyone else sees them as the Clanton gang. And then we have Wyatt Earp, Morgan Earp, and Virgil Earp as the villains of the episode, which, by the way, that in itself was a weird twist to me, because prior to this, I've seen the Kurt Russell movie Tombstone, in which the Earps were the heroes.
Yeah.
So it was definitely an interesting twist to see them be portrayed as the villains in this. And then add on top of that the fact that halfway through the episode, Chekhov dies in the same way that McCoy did, where he gets shot by Morgan Earp, I believe it is, but turns out he's actually okay, and by the end, he's okay.
Yeah, the reason why that was the case was because Chekhov believed that the guns were real, and Spock basically figures it out that since everything there is unreal, they had to there had to be no doubt in anyone's mind that none of this stuff is real and stuff. So since Spock can discipline himself that way, they won't harm him. But he had to go and mind meld with Scotty, McCoy, and Kirk just to get them, because as humans we always have doubt. Even 99.9% of the time, if you have that tiny little doubt in this episode, you're dead from the bullets and stuff. So
yeah. And it was also interesting that they pointed out in this episode that in the actual gunfight in the OK Corral, as you have pointed up here, Billy Clybourne, who was being played in this part by Chekhov, survived the gunfight at the OK Corral, but now he's dead before it even happened. So
yeah, even
I wonder if that was like the first clue that's to Spock that things aren't right here.
Yeah, actually, I believe that's where they started to. Or yeah, that's where Spock started to figure things out and stuff. So, But yeah, like, I after seeing like Tombstone stuff, you learn that Ike Clan, who was Kirk, the leader of the clan gang, he survives as well. It's only really Spock and McCoy's characters, Frank and Tom McClary. I think they're the only ones that died in the
Right.
gunfight. So,
And speaking of Kirk, the overacting bit that I said, there is a point where Kirk tries to persuade Sheriff Behan to help him call off the fight, but Behan's like, "No, you started this. Kill them. I'm okay with it. Kill them." And they start arguing back and forth more, and Kirk just starts going more and crazy, like, "I can't kill them. I can't kill them." And then Behan's like, "Kill them anyway. You have to. I'm not going to ask any questions."
oh my god, it tells you about it tells you it was the sheriff and stuff. But
Yes.
there was like there was Ed the bartender. Remember, or they're like, because they're asking. He's like the first person they talk to. He just starts laughing at them, say, "Hey, you don't know who you are? Come on!" And of
Yeah.
course, then there's the famous one that I really thought was a great thing. McCoy goes into the dentist's office to get medicine or something. I forget what exactly it was for. It's been a while since I've watched this episode.
They were attempting to make the knockout gas bomb.
Oh yeah, that's right. And of course, the dentist is, or I don't know if it was the barber or the dentist,
It was a
but
barber,
but
and it ended up being Doc Holliday he was working on.
yeah, and of course Doc Holliday's the dentist and stuff, and he asks like,
Hmm.
"Hey, can I use this?" And Doc Holliday just, of course McCoy wasn't quite his Huckleberry, so he's just like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, yeah, take whatever you need. You're gonna die soon, anyways." That was basically
Yeah.
the impression I got. So
Yeah. Val Kilmer, this guy was not.
no, no, he was. I think he was older. I think this actor was actually older
Hmm.
than the others. So, but yeah, the I saw Tombstone first, and I saw a little bit of Wyatt Earp, the one with Kevin Costner. And I think they came out roughly around the same
I
time.
barely remember that one. I know Dad likes to watch it sometimes.
Yeah, my dad loved my dad loved both of those movies though. My dad's a big Wyatt Earp guy. So
Yeah.
rest in peace. But yeah, yeah, I thought this was a very interesting episode. This was actually the first production episode of season 3. It wasn't the first aired episode, but it was the first production episode. This is episode 56. Episode
Interesting.
55 was Assignment Earth, and that was season 2. So,
Hmm.
Anything else you want to
Yes,
say
there.
about this?
Yes, even in spite of how cheesy and ridiculous this episode is, I did think it's cool that the very first thing that we see of Star Trek Continues was sort of a callback to this episode when Kirk and Scotty are testing out their version of the holodeck, and Kirk is literally staring down the barrel of a gun of a guy, saying, "I want you to take a look at this gun. It's built exactly to my specifications. I don't draw it unless I have to. Would you like to see me use it?" But in the background, it's the exact same set as Spectre of the Gun.
Yeah, and that actor or that guy that was telling Vic Mignogna all that stuff about the gun, that was Doug Drexler. He's one of the one of the crew of Trek in general. He's gonna be joining the Orville for season 3. So he was like makeup guy and visual effects guy. So yeah, that was
Nice.
him. They gave him it was a little cameo. So
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that's okay. But yeah, that was Spectre of the Gun. So that was your number 3.
Yes.
Okay, all right. My number 3 is an episode that. Before I go any further, I just want to welcome some additional people. We have Phil TMNT. What's
Hey,
up?
Phil.
How you doing? Padawannabe is here, and Low Spec Linux Laptops here too. So welcome to the stream. I hope you guys enjoy this cheesy episode of Trekporial.
Yes.
So my number 3 is an episode from the first season. Can you believe it? I chose another episode from season 1. Now season 1 is the best season in my opinion.
Oh,
Some of the best
easily.
episodes, but there were some episodes that might be a little out there. Might be a lot of mistakes made, a lot of unintentional humor for especially for an episode that is supposed to be really high stakes. And of course, the episode I'm talking about for my number 3 is The Alternative Factor. Remember the one with the space court? There's the guy Lazarus.
Aside from the trippy effects on this one, I disagree. I think this one is legit. I think this one is unironically good.
Yeah, I think this episode is good. I did not. I actually really enjoyed this. So all these episodes that I've talked about so far are episodes that I've had a history with, that I've watched as a kid, and I've had a unique impression on them. And so, but these are also episodes that are widely not liked by a lot of fans and stuff. So,
Right.
So basically, what happens in this one is they're basically surveying another planet. I'll say planet California because it's clearly, California, and they survey it, and all of a sudden everything starts winking, like the whole universe, or the where they're at, everything just go like that, and everyone's like, what the heck happened? It was like time just kind of stopped, and the thing was, it wasn't just the crew of the Enterprise that was feeling it. Everywhere in the galaxy was felt, and basically, there's a big, security alert from Starfleet. So obviously, they're trying to build up a high sense of stakes. They believe, for some reason, I don't quite understand this, they believe it was a prelude to invasion, which I don't fully get why they thought that way about that. But being aside, they find out that the focal point of this effect, this magnetic effect, is on the planet that they're at right now. Of course, because this is, the Enterprise. They're at the center of everything. So they go to and of course, right after the effect ends, they find a humanoid on the planet, and the humanoid is basically a guy who's wearing a very crappy blue costume that was probably made really quickly. Something that looks very cheesy in and of itself, and of course, an actor with a glued on beard, mustache and beard and stuff.
Oh wait, that I didn't realize that was not real.
That was not real because the original actor that they had hired for that part was, I think, Drew Barrymore's father. I think his name's John Barrymore, and he didn't show up. And with television production, and it's the same now. Well, it's the same now as it was then. You had to keep schedule. If you didn't keep schedule, you were effed. So they had another actor on hand to replace him, and of course this actor was clean shaven. Robert Brown, he was completely clean shaven. So they had to basically glue a beard, like a little weird beard and a mustache, a parting mustache, not a full mustache, but a parting mustache. Where it's on the sides, it's not under the nose, but on the sides, stuff
like what I have.
And I don't know if you've noticed, but when they're on the planet, you can see the full stash and the full mustache and beard and stuff. It looks like it's there. But when they're in the briefing room questioning Lazarus, it's like completely. There was like a makeup wardrobe malfunction that day or something, because you can barely see the stash. It's like completely thin and gone. It's like it worn out or something. It was probably later in the day.
I'm gonna have to look at this because I don't remember that.
All right, I will. All right, I'm gonna look it up right now. Alternative Factor. Lazarus, mustache. All right, so this is him normally, with the mustache. He's parting right here and stuff. Same here, but if you go to the there's a scene in the briefing room right here. You see how you can barely see it?
Yeah.
Like, it's still there, but it's like, I'm guessing this was later in the day, and they probably didn't have the means to replace it.
There's an even better one underneath right now. Really?
All right, sorry. Let me get back to that. Here it is. This one. This is what I'm talking about.
That's an even better one.
Yeah. So obviously there was a lot of issues with continuity, with this episode and stuff. So, but basically, so they meet this guy Lazarus. And he basically tells them, hey, I'm basically pursuing this thing, this creature that wants to basically destroy everyone and everything and stuff. And of course, as the episode goes on, we find out that he's one of two people. And this is basically, to me, this is pre-Mirror. This was a prototype for the Mirror Universe episodes later on. The only difference is, and And this is, I originally thought this was a mirror universe episode, but nobody mentioned it. But the reason why this is not a mirror universe episode is because the mirror universe is not made up of antimatter. In this universe, in this parallel universe that Lazarus, or the alternate Lazarus, inhabits, it's made of antimatter. So what's funny is the Lazarus from this universe is actually the bad one. He's the crazy one, and you could tell like when he talks to Kirk and he tries to say, "Oh, I'm a good person, and my guy that I'm hunting is a monster. He's evil," and he's saying that all this while he barely blinks and stuff. So
Yeah.
it reminds me of someone on Twitter. It reminds me of people on Twitter and stuff. Cloaking themselves in good deeds. Acting like they're the righteous, acting in the name of righteousness when they're actually non-stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it was that same type of thing. So Spock's like, "Hey, you've been lied to, Captain. This guy, I made the fundamental deduction that you are a liar." so this episode where he says that to the guy, and we find out throughout the episode that he keeps turning. I don't know why this happens, but he keeps switching between his matter, his crazy self, and his other self on the ship. I don't know why that happens, but it just does. So, you see him with the bandage. The crazy one has the bandage on, and the not so crazy one does not have a bandage on. So, and why does he have a bandage on? Because he falls all the time. He fell I think 2 or 3 times in this episode, and just and he should have died, but he didn't. So it was ridiculous. So he basically steals. We have a female engineer in this episode. So when people were complaining that there was no representation and stuff, Star Trek did this long before anybody was complaining about this. So the main engineer, the main dilithium engineer, is Lieutenant Masters, Charlene Masters, and she's basically does work for the captain and stuff. And it's too bad they never brought her back. I think she would have been a great character to solve a fundamental engineering problem, maybe a warp problem with Scotty and stuff.
Right.
Scotty was not in this episode, but it would have been interesting to see them both together to do something. So, but that's just me. So, but unfortunately, she was victimized twice by the 2 Lazaruses because they both wanted they both wanted dilithium crystals for different reasons and stuff. Mainly because the dilithium crystals in this episode are used to basically they hook them up to this little ship. You can't really see it, but that little ship here, there's the dilithium crystal right there. Mm-hmm. They basically use that to basically create some radiation or cause radiation to basically create a hole in the universe and stuff. I know I'm sounding ridiculous right now, but it's true. So the idea is, the reason why it's the stakes are so high is because once that corridor opens, it's like Lazarus compared it to like a cell with explosives on the door and stuff. If you open the door, everything could go off, because in this episode, in Star Trek in general, when you mix matter and antimatter, boom, they try to cancel each other out, kind of like positive and negative, ions or whatever, anything positive or negative, or opposites, they always attract and usually cancel each other out. Same idea. So basically what happens is Kirk fights Lazarus, and basically works with the other Lazarus, the good one from the antimatter universe, to basically trap the 2 of them in that time corridor in between the universes forever. And they trap them by destroying, basically they throw them in there and then they destroy the ship, and the other ship in the other universe gets destroyed too. So that's basically what happens. This episode was full of errors, full of continuity issues. The fact that Kirk was in the antimatter universe talking to antimatter Lazarus without it blowing up was another issue, because he's made of matter. Our Kirk is made of matter, and so he went into the antimatter universe and nothing happened. But yet they're complaining that if this Lazarus goes into their universe, and maybe there's something I'm not seeing, but it's an issue that they didn't quite work out. It's a writing issue that they didn't work out. So. But yeah, and of course, despite the fact that they saved the universe, Kirk still felt that regret. He's like, what of Lazarus? What of Lazarus?
Mm-hmm.
Because they trapped him, and They trapped him with an enemy. They trapped him with his enemy forever. They're going to be fighting for eternity. So I guess he can't die in that thing, in that corridor.
Yeah.
Whoever knew?
This is one I feel like I need to rewatch.
The concept is brilliant. It's just it's not executed as well as it should have been. So
Yeah, by the way you make it sound, like I said, this one I remember enjoying, but I understand that people don't particularly like this one, and the way that you describe it, I can certainly see why.
but I remember. Here's the thing. I saw this episode when I was 12 years old. I was in sixth grade. I stayed up. The only time Star Trek was ever on basic TV when I went in the late 90s when I was getting into this was midnight on Saturdays. Well, technically Sundays, Sunday mornings, midnight and stuff. And so this episode was on one week, and I'm recording it because we had these things called. I know you're too young to remember this, but we had these things called VCRs, Paul.
Oh, trust me, I remember that.
And I used to buy these things called blank tapes and stuff. I used to put in the VCR, and I used to hit record, set it to the channel that I want to record from. I would hit record, and I would basically record the episodes that I didn't already own on VHS on tape and stuff. I would record, and this was one of those episodes that I recorded. They played all of season 1 each week, and I remember seeing this episode, and this was at freaking midnight, and I saw that fight with the negative right there, the way they showed the photographic negatives. I'm like, what the hell is this? First they show a mat of Starfield with a nebula, and then it kind of does a rotate. It completely does a really quick rotating zoom and stuff, and then it goes into this. I'm like, what the hell am I watching? I was 12 years old. What is this? I'm like, what's going on here? Why are they glowing? What is this? So then that's basically the quarter that they were talking about and stuff. So
Yep.
I couldn't believe it. So but yeah, that's my number 3, and I want to say hello to Brian Skate. No, he's not me. He's a gate. He's a gate named Brian.
Nice.
And he says he had a Betamax. Really? He had a Betamax? Oh well.
All right, so my number 2, that's where we are, right?
Yeah, number 2.
Number 2 for me is The Way to Eden, because space hippies.
Yes.
So the idea behind this one is the Enterprise is chasing a stolen Federation shuttle, stolen by a man named Dr. Severin, who used to be one of the most brilliant minds in the engineering field, but he came down with this disease that will kill him, and around that time he started going crazy and almost rebelling against technology, wanting to return to a simpler time before all the technology that they have came to be. He amassed a following, which, by the way, included a girl named Irina, someone that used to be Chekhov's crush, we'll call it. And all of them were setting out to find a mythical place called Eden. Obviously referencing the place of paradise in the Book of Genesis. And the Enterprise sort of unwillingly helps them get there because they take the Enterprise hostage. And they do this by literally just being nuisances. You know, every single hippie stereotype from the 60s is here. You know, one of them's a guitar player. He's my favorite one, by the way. And he sings, you know, songs about not submitting to authority. They have protests because their leader's being contained for, you know, his disease. And, you know, through basically just being too nice to the crew, they take over auxiliary control and take the Enterprise hostage and take him to Eden. But the twist is, when they get to Eden, literally everything made of plant life there is deadly. And by the way, this is the first episode that I really noticed, Chekhov screams a lot.
Yeah. Star Trek 3, Chekhov screams again. At least that's what's how Walter Koenig said it or something.
Yep.
I forget, when does he scream in this episode? I've only seen this episode
He
a handful of
screams when he
times.
tries to touch one of the plants when they actually get eaten. He's like, "Ah, Captain!" And his hands are burning.
Okay. Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh, yeah. And of course, Severin basically eats one of the eats the. I'm going to say it. It's a forbidden fruit. He eats the forbidden fruit and he dies.
Yeah,
Kind of on the nose. I'm wondering what they're talking about there. Who knows?
I do too. And of
But
course, all of the hippies are barefoot. So anytime they walk on the grass, their feet become severely blistered.
yeah. Oh man. Oh yeah. Holy crap. Yeah, I forgot about that too. Yeah, this was an interesting episode. This was I remember like the girl, the Irina and stuff. I think that was originally supposed to be. I said this before on Tuesday Night Trek. She was originally supposed to be McCoy's daughter, Joanna.
I think she honestly should have been,
You think so?
because by this point, nothing against the character of Chekhov. He's awesome. But McCoy, we've been with literally since the Man Trap. And by the way, hey Pacific, I think it being someone that McCoy is related to would have tugged at our heartstrings just a little bit more than Chekhov. Although this episode, because of the connection that Chekhov and Irina have, is kind of the closest thing that we get to a Chekhov-centric episode.
Yeah, I agree. We didn't really get a whole lot of Chekhov-centric episodes. They basically added a character. He was basically added just to get the younger girl demographic to watch this and stuff. Because young girls in the '60s were into like the Beatles. They were into the Monkees. Obviously, a lot of people compare Chekhov to Davy Jones and stuff.
Yeah.
At least that's how Walter Koenig put it. But did you know that this actor Skip Homeyer was in another episode of TOS?
Which one?
I'll give you a hint. Heil.
You're kidding.
He was the one. He was the one that was pulling all the strings. So you had John Gill. John Gill was the Federation
Ooh.
person that was basically gave them the idea of the Nazi Mein Kampf, I
Yeah.
think it was, and of course he was basically the one that basically took over the government and basically used John Gill as like a puppet and stuff by
Yeah.
drugging him. So but and he kills John Gill. He shoots the studio or the little room, the booth or the parlor that he's in.
Yeah,
itself. But
I'm
yeah, that's
legitimately surprised I didn't think of that one for this list, just from the simple fact of, oh my god, you guys actually went there.
yeah, they did. Yes, they did. So and of course if you're not a Gundam fan, the Nazis are basically oppressing the Zeon. So when you hear Sig Zeon in Mobile Suit Gundam, every time I hear it, I still laugh because in this episode, and this is years before first Mobile Suit Gundam came out, they're basically oppressing Zeons of all things. So, and of course, I don't know if you recognize the guitar player that's Charles Napier. He was in Rambo 2. He was Rambo
Haven't
2.
seen that
He
one
was
yet.
Yeah, he was Rambo 2. He was the stinking bureaucrat that Troutman calls. And of course, he was in Blues Brothers. He
Haven't
was
seen Blues Brothers.
Oh, you gotta see Blues Brothers. That's an awesome movie.
I will.
But he's one of the country guys that the Blues Brothers kind of screw over in Blues Brothers and stuff. So yeah, so it's a small role, but it's pretty memorable and stuff. So don't
Yes.
you say? He basically says to his guys, "Don't you say an effing word." When they crash into a lake and stuff, but that's beside the point. So yeah, but that's okay. So is that all you have to say about this particular episode?
Yeah, just space hippies.
Space hippies. Okay. So you want to know what my number 2 is? And
that?
this is a season 3 episode. Can you think of the one episode where Shatner and Nimoy did an extreme amount of overacting, and then something really big happens in the history of television, and Kirk does something that would never fly today?
Bread and circuses.
It's not Nope, it's not Bren Circuses.
Oh wait, no, Plato's Stepchildren.
That's right. That's right. Plato's Stepchildren is my number 2. So, so yeah, Plato's Stepchildren for me. If you don't remember this. Remember, they're being
Yes.
controlled by these
Yes.
Platonians who have psychokinetic abilities and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, look at this. I just have to show all this,
Yeah.
just for the.
And here's the thing.
He's playing
You're miss
horsey. He's playing a horsey with a little person.
and the honestly, I'm not even gonna say funny. The tragic part of this is the noise that Kirk makes as he's playing the horse. He's supposed to be neighing like a horse, and yet he makes it sound so much like a horse in anguish that it's honestly sad.
I know, I know. It's crazy. And of course, Spock does tap dancing. Remember, Spock does tap dancing.
Yes.
And look at this. Like he's just like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he didn't show
Although,
the.
speaking of Spock, there is one, well, kind of two scenes that I did legitimately like with this, and that is when the Platonians are forcing emotions out of Spock and McCoy, who they're pretty much doing all of this for because they're thankful for McCoy saving his life. They're making Spock laugh and cry against his will, and McCoy's like, "Stop it! You'll kill him. He's a Vulcan. You can't force emotion out of them." And then in the very next scene after this is over, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are basically recovering from what just happened to them, and Spock is taking it hardest of all.
Yeah,
Like, I hate using this word, but it's like they pretty much violated him.
yeah, they did. And you just, it's such it's a really, even though all this cheesiness is going on, them being forced to overact and stuff. That following scene where Spock is like literally trying to come to terms with this is actually really, it's actually really it's kind of touching in a way. I mean, it basically kind of takes you back into brings you back into the episode, and you start caring about Spock. I mean, the first thing he says, Spock's like, "I'm angry. I have nothing but hatred," and he's like, You guys get to release it, but for me as a Vulcan, it's unacceptable. I have to master it." And he basically takes the chalice. He just breaks it. He just grabs it and he breaks it to show to show how impactful it is for Spock to get angry, and he's trying so hard not to act on it. And it was just
Yes.
it was just yeah, it was a wonderful. I thought it was a wonderful thing, but there was a lot of wonderful aspects of this episode. So basically, what happens in Plato's Stepchildren. So now that we got all the cheesy aspects of this episode aside, basically they respond to the typical episode of a Star Trek a typical episode. Basically, they usually respond to a distress call, and of course these aliens somehow have the ability to block the scanner, so there's no indication that that there's anyone on the planet's surface. And then when they beam down, they are greeted by Alexander, played by Michael Dunn. And of course, if you don't, I mean, I'm sure if you're really familiar with like 60s television stuff, Michael Dunn plays the villain of of one of the villains in the show called Wild Wild West, the
Hmm.
original Wild Wild West, not the Will Smith one. If he was in the Will Smith one, he'd be smacked. Okay, that was too soon. But yeah, so he plays Dr. Loveless. So he plays a villain. You know what's funny? I'm gonna kind of go off on a little tangent here. You know who his main henchman was in the Wild Wild West? Now
Oh,
he's about 3 feet tall. Who do you think his henchman was? Who do you think
someone
it?
someone incredibly tall.
Yes, and not only tall but menacing. Let's just say James Bond had a hard time fighting him in 2 movies.
Jaws?
That was, yeah, Richard Keel.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll let me see if I get yeah, yeah, his character, Jaws' character's name is Voltaire.
Hmm.
Let me see if I can. Yeah, right here. That's this is 1965, I believe. So this was like a decade before Spy Who Loved Me came out. Right here. So, and
Right.
that's him right here. He's Doc. He's basically he's like a miniature Doctor Moriarty. I'm guessing they based his character off of Doctor Moriarty and stuff from
Hmm.
Sherlock Holmes. So And now I'm thinking of another Star Trek episode. I'm thinking another Star Trek episode featuring Moriarty and stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, that's what I think. This is his best known role, and of course, if you're on a Star Trek show, especially TOS, you're practically made. You're practically royalty to fans and stuff. So, but going back, so we meet Alexander, and he's the only one that doesn't have the psychokinetic ability. So we have the king, the philosopher King Parman right here. He has the greatest amount of psychokinetic power. So basically, this is a planet of aliens or humanoid aliens from this planet or from this system called forget what the name of the system they're from is, but they were another result of Sandara is the name of the star that the area that they're from, and they were basically I don't know if they were a victim, but they were a product of more genetic engineering and stuff. So they're kind of like Khan's people. The only difference is they don't have the super duper strength and they don't have the strength and they don't have the superior intellect and stuff. They're just simply, very arrogant, and they're practically immortal. Like they're like at this point, like I think
Yes.
the woman Falana, played by Barbara Babcock, she said, "Oh, I'm 2,300 years old." And if you don't remember her, she was in the episode "A Taste of Armageddon," where she plays
Yep.
May at 3, and Kirk basically in that episode, Kirk basically stops her from going into I'll call them, I forget what they call them, the suicide booths.
Incinerators.
Yeah, and the incinerators. Like, what are you doing? But in this one, she's more evil and stuff. So basically, Parman's sick. Basically, the fact that they have the psychokinetic power, they basically don't move around anymore, and that basically is the reason why they get sick whenever, a simple scratch will cause them a great infection, and that will cause them to be near death. So McCoy saves his life. But despite the fact that McCoy saves his life, while he's suffering, he basically locks the Enterprise in orbit and has the ability to destroy the ship and stuff. So when they save him and he gets better and stuff, he still doesn't release the ship. And he's like, "Oh, I'll only release the ship if you let McCoy stay with us." And Kirk realizes that he realizes this early on. This is how brilliant Kirk is. He's like, if we release him to you, you're just simply going to destroy us. You're going to destroy us. And Alexander basically confirms this and stuff. And we as the audience learn this when Alexander says right before the opening credits, he's like, "Falana, they came here to help. They deserve better to." And they're like, "Alexander, you talk too much," and stuff. So we know that there's something wrong with these people and stuff. So we saw basically. So they were given gifts for saving him, and of course, once again, McCoy and Kirk refused to humor Parman with letting McCoy stay. So I showed basically all the stuff that happens. So, and then of course we had that great scene with Spock, dealing with the fact that he was violated by being forced to show his emotions, which is something that you just don't do to a Vulcan. It's like it's just something that's just like it's a big no-no and stuff. So after that's going on, they're trying to get to the bottom of why. They're asking like a bunch of questions, which is what adults do. And so they're asking Alexander like, "Hey, how long did they have this power?" He's like, "Oh, we've had the power for about 6 months and stuff." Or they've had the power 6 months after we got here, so they didn't have the power before. And then they find out roughly, they started, using the, once they started eating the foods on the plant, that's basically when they started developing the power. And they figure out the enzyme that they use. I forget what the enzyme is called. That, the chitinide. Chitinide is basically the enzyme that basically needs to be broken down in the pituitary gland in order to, cause, in order to cause these powers to manifest. So basically the same thing. We find out the reason why Alexander does not have these powers is because the chitinide, that there's a lack of chitinide in the system, and it's the same reason why he's a little person. So it's kind of ironic too. So, and the one thing I loved, that I think the biggest bright spot of this episode was Alexander himself. I mean, obviously played by Michael Dunn, great actor, R.I.P.
Hmm.
And he basically shows like, and I was a kid when I saw this. I was sixth grade, and I was having my own issues with my peers and stuff at the time, and wherever I went stuff. So it was, and seeing him getting picked on by these Platonians, and seeing Kirk basically stepping up and saying, "Hey, Alexander, where we come from, race, color, or color, size, or shape makes no difference, and nobody has the power and stuff." And then he basically, so that was one of the first things that I really took. I basically took with me, and showed me, and the movies did this too, but shows me that they're very altruistic people. That there are decent. It basically told me that there are decent people out there and stuff, and that's kind of why I latched onto these characters in the series in the first place. So, and then later, basically later in the episode, there's one final humiliation that they have to go through, but this time they bring down Uhura and Chapel. So Uhura and Chapel are taken down right here, and they're basically forced to. I don't know what they were gonna do, but they were basically forced to like do bad stuff to them or something for the whims of the Platonians. And it gets to the point where Kirk picks up a whip, and this could not be done today without people getting triggered. He takes a whip and he starts whipping in her direction, and
after he kisses her, which was a big moment in TV because it was the first interracial kiss ever in TV in the 60s, right in the middle of the civil rights stuff.
Yep, this was actually this aired shortly after, this aired not too long after Martin Luther King got killed. So so the so, and I, what's funny was I first learned about that from, because I owned the VHS of this episode. It was on the box. It was one of the, it's like, it shows, it goes, it has a little, on the back it has pictures of the episode, and it has a little synopsis, and then below that it has like fun facts. And one of the fun facts was, this was the first interracial kiss on television. I'm like, what does that mean? And then I watched the episode, like, oh, that's what that means. Okay, cool. I was like, oh, cool. And plus, what's funny was, right before I got into Star Trek, I actually learned about civil rights. I did a report on Martin Luther King, so go figure. So this, to me, it was the perfect age. Sixth grade was the perfect age to get into Star Trek. 12 years old and stuff. So I wasn't too young I was too young to not be bored by it, but I was old enough to understand the stuff that they were talking about here. So basically, the ultimately what happens is Kirk, and we see it right here. So Kirk basically learns the Force, and he gets into a Force fight with Parman over Alexander. Alexander's basically the tool that they're using. So Parman's pushing Alexander to stab him, while Kirk is using the opposite to get to Parman, or to at least threaten Parman. Kirk has no intention of killing Parman. And he actually stops Alexander from going all the way. And Alexander's like, what are you doing? Let me finish him. And the first thing Kirk says is, hey, do you want to be like him? And Alexander's like, good point. So once again, this is Star Trek. This is even people that mean to kill you. Even people that, antagonists that want nothing but your destruction for their benefit. They still show them mercy and stuff. And this is what fans expect. And so once again, this is why people are upset about the stuff that comes out now.
Yes.
So, and this is a beautiful, for a cheesy episode, this had a very beautiful ending. They take Alexander with them, and of course we never see Alexander again. But that's Plato's Stepchildren. So yep, that's my number 2. So anything you want to add? You want to go on to honorable mentions?
I'm ready to go on to my honorable mention. Now, full disclosure, as we were talking, I thought of a whole bunch of other episodes that honestly could have been put in this honorable mention spot, but I'm just going to keep it at the one that I have. And the one that I have is Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. So this was This was another. Actually, I would say this is the one episode that focused the most on making commentary on the issue of racism back in the 60s. It's centered around these two guys that look almost the same as each other. They're two pretty much humans that have one side of their face painted completely white, and I mean white, not this, and then one side of their face completely painted jet black. But one has one side painted one way and the other side the other, and the other one is the reverse of that. And because of that one difference, the inhabitants of the planet that they live on hate each other for it, to the point that they are, yeah, that's literally that. By the way, fun fact, the guy that you see on the left, that's actually the Riddler from the Adam West Batman.
Yeah, Frank Gorshin.
Mm-hmm. I think he did a better job as the Riddler. But anyways, because of this one difference in what side of their face is what color, the two races of this planet hate each other to the point that they started a war of pretty much which race was better. And these two end up aboard the Enterprise because the one on the right, he gets aboard first, and he's a fugitive, allegedly, from the other. But really what it boils down to is that the two races just hated each other so much that they could not see past the ideas that they had anything in common at all, and in the end it ended up leading to the destruction of their home planet. And by the way, nobody on the Enterprise ended up liking them. In fact, Scotty even says it in the end of the episode. I find them despicable, Captain.
Disgusting.
Disgusting. Yeah. Same thing.
And Spock's like, your statement is not quite accurate. And he's like, Mr. Spock, I know what I'm talking about. That is the very definition of disgusting. So obviously it was very on the nose, but it didn't go as far to say racism is bad. It went as far to say that hatred of that type of depth only leads to mutually assured destruction. I'm not talking about nuclear weapons. I'm just talking about in general. Like nobody wins. Everybody loses. And they're the only two left of their species now, and it's to me it's probably, I don't know about you, but to me it's probably the darkest ending of a show. And I mean, and of course, well maybe City on the Edge of Forever might have this beat as being darker, having a darker ending, but it's very close. Because also, in that case Kirk had to let someone die, and that f's with you, and that's something that would stay with you for the rest of your life. Like that moment in City on the Edge of Forever is something that would stay with you for the rest of your life and stuff. So,
absolutely. And by the way, darn it, I forgot what I was gonna say. I'm good to move on. You
thought Lokai was an awesome character. That he was so he was appealing to the righteous because he was a victim.
Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. What I was gonna say. Arguably, this lesson is more applicable today than it is back then, and that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Interesting. All right, very interesting. So is that your only?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, there's an episode that I thought was pretty cheesy and stuff that I thought it didn't quite make the list and stuff, mainly because I didn't want to watch the episode. But that's the episode Whom Gods Destroy. That's the one that features Captain Garth from the Axanar, from that Axanar trailer that they showed that was made by some jerk named I can't think of his name now, but the guy that basically this is the episode where they meet Garth.
Isn't his name the Nordporeal Lifeform?
I don't know what you mean. No, why?
I'm kidding.
No, it's not true. It's impossible. Right. So basically so Kirk and Spock basically teleport to this planet, this penal colony, and of course they find out that the head of the the head of the penal colony. I forget his name, but obviously that's actor Key Luke, who was in Kung Fu, and of course he's the dub voice of Mr. Han from Enter the Dragon. I'm sure you guys never knew that.
Nope.
But yeah, so basically he was actually Garth in disguise. So Garth has the ability to change, to shapeshift into other forms and stuff. So he basically turns into him, and he holds Kirk and Spock hostage on the planet. And the thing is, he basically wants to take over the Enterprise. So he turns into Shatner. He turns into Shatner and tries to, contact the Enterprise. But apparently Kirk and Scotty are playing this little chess game every time they make contact with each other in this. And Scotty's always asking, Queen to Queen's level 3, Captain? And he's like, I'm not playing chess. Beam me aboard. And he's like, no. Mm-hmm. And he's asking McCoy, like, why does he give the countersign? I don't know. And of course, then we see that famous, act of Shatner doing this and this.
Yes.
He's like, no, 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 because that just tells you how sane. That just tells you how sane they are and stuff. So, but yeah, they're having they're having like a mock party and stuff, and they're clearly all crazy. Like they're all, well, not crazy, but they're all not well. I'll be
right.
They're not well and stuff, especially Garth and stuff. And they have this new thing they have this new medicine or this new machine that's supposed to help them. It's basically this right here, and of course he starts to heal. Hopefully he doesn't become like a vegetable like they were. And remember Dagger of the Mind with the neural neutralizer in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they use like some of the same props. The only difference is this is not on the ceiling. It's actually right on. It's mounted right to the bed that they're on, or the.
Yes.
So hopefully it's a better option than the neural neutralizer. Obviously they destroyed that in Dagger of the Mind, but yeah. So yeah, they Kirk and Spock manage to get rescued, and they leave, and that's basically whom Gods destroy. And he basically has a chance to tell Garth right here that Garth was his main role model. Garth was his role model. The reason why he became a captain was because of the exploits of Captain Garth during the Klingon War. So. And you know how they say never meet your heroes. Well, this episode's a classic example of not meeting your heroes, or they're gonna hold you hostage on a penal planet. So
exactly.
So yeah, that's my honorable mention. So what's your so what is your number one?
Number one for me is Cat's Paw, because literally everything about this episode is ridiculous. And funny enough, the one thing that this episode is missing, at least that I noticed, is overacting by Captain Kirk. Although someone else does some overacting in this that makes up for it. So the whole point. So basically, this is the only holiday-themed episode of Star Trek that we get in this show. In fact, at least as of right now, that I've seen in our venture through Tuesday Night Trek, the only holiday episode we've seen, period. I mean, they mentioned Thanksgiving once in Charlie X, but other than that, they don't mention holidays like Halloween, Christmas, Easter, etc. outside of this episode. So Scotty, Sulu, and Jackson, another crew member, have beamed down to this one planet, and they're not responding for their check-ins. Jackson ends up beaming back, but he beams back dead. And a creepy voice
Look
speaks.
how real he looks. Look at that.
Oh, of course. A creepy voice ends up speaking through Jackson saying, "Captain Kirk, you will leave this planet. There is a curse on your ship." And so what do? But Kirk, Spock, and McCoy end up beaming down anyways. And they get down there. It's all dark and foggy. And there's some ghosts that are there trying to warn them, being like, "Turn back! Remember the curse!" But they keep going. And they come across this castle there's a black cat inside the castle, and of course, they're mentioning, must be someone playing some sort of trick or treat joke on us. They end up falling into a crater in the hole in the floor, and they get chained up in the dungeon. And I like what McCoy says here. He's looking at the skeleton and he's like, "You were saying something about trick or treat, Jim?" And all of a sudden, in comes Scotty and Sulu, but they're brainwashed like zombies. They unchain Kirk, Spock, and McCoy from the walls and lead them upstairs to the throne room, where this one being is waiting for him. He's presented as a dark wizard. His name is Korob, and the cat that's been following them around is another of Korob's kind. Her name is Sylvia, and it becomes very clear that she is the one that's really pulling the strings, because Korob, basically, at least to her, doesn't know when to shut up. And so a good portion of the episode is Sylvia flirting with Kirk. And she is the one, by the way, that overacts the most in this episode, because their species, I can't remember what it's called, but their species apparently doesn't know what any sort of feeling and sensation is as we experience it. But now, because they're taking on a human form, they do know what it is, and she is borderline orgasmic at every new sensation, and she overacts accordingly. And then the way it ends is the cat becomes giant as she chases him through the castle. Kirk and Spock have to face off against McCoy, who also became a zombie, Scotty and Sulu, and they win. Yeah. And Kirk breaks the magic wand to end the illusion.
So she was, I forget, so she was the cat the whole time?
Interesting. Yes, she was the cat, because she's wearing the same crystal in her cat form as she is as a human.
So if I remember correctly, the way they get defeated is basically Kirk takes the wand and he just smashes it. He just smashes it along the, I think, in the wall or the table or something.
Yes.
And then we see their true form. They're basically two little
crawfish.
Puppets. Yeah, little crawfish, little blue and yellow, and yeah, the little puppets right here and stuff. So it was actually interesting when they showed this right here. It was interesting seeing Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Scotty, and Sulu, all five of them on the planet at the same time. That was like a rarity to see all five of them on the planet at the same time, on a planet at the same time. So, because usually Scotty was, when Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are on the surface, Scotty's usually the one in charge of the ship. If not Scotty, then Sulu. So this was one of the few episodes where they had a person who wasn't part of the regular cast. It was Lieutenant DeSalle was actually the one that was in command in this episode.
Yes, who we never see again, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, we see Lieutenant. He appears twice before. He was in Squire of Gothos.
Yes.
Where he tries to attack Trelane. Trelane sees him in the mirror and freezes him. And then he was also in This Side of Paradise. He was one of the guys on the surface. He gets into a fist fight with another actor, with another crewman and stuff on the planet. So it was cool. I always enjoyed seeing other crew members that were outside the cast, but they had roles. They had lines to speak, that they didn't just were there just to provide window dressing. Like they actually had a little bit of depth and stuff.
Or take the kill in place of Kirk or Spock or McCoy.
Or take the kill and stuff. So if there was one thing I would have preferred, that one thing I think TOS should have improved on was, this is something I agree with Crit, and when it comes to stuff, when it comes to Crit's ideas, we usually disagree on a lot of stuff, but I think there should have been a little bit more characterization with a lot of characters in TOS, but that's my only issue. Yeah. But this was the 60s, so I'm a little bit more forgiving on this. And plus, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are just brilliant. I love the other characters too. They're all really good at what they do. It's compelling to watch them, working in outer space, and that's what makes Star Trek great. And then the way they treat other species and stuff is just, it's the bright future that fans want to see, and stuff like this right here doesn't do that. So,
yep.
So that's your number one.
That is my number one.
Okay, you want to know what my number one is?
Spock's brain.
It's Spock's brain. Why is that my number one? Well, it's my number one basically because I've told you this. I've said this on multiple streams. I've had a history with this episode. This was the other episode. This was the first episode I ever owned next to Space Seed. So I got both this and Space Seed for Christmas on VHS. So, and the only reason why I chose this episode because it had the name Spock in it. Spock's brain. Oh, maybe this will be an interesting episode. And boy was I right. Because this episode, I was 12 when I saw this. I had a big kick out of this. It was hilarious, and it was. I didn't think it was. I didn't think it was hokey or anything. I just thought it was fun because I was looking for just. I got hooked on the cheesy aspect of Star Trek, the exotic look, the colorful nature of this.
Basically, where I am now with it.
Yeah. The colorful nature of it, the acting, I love the makeup. The ladies look very beautiful with the makeup and the hair and everything, and I love the colorful uniforms and the cheesy outfits. I fell in love with all that. That's why I kept watching this and stuff. So, and just the whole idea that an alien woman just like beams right through their shields in a weird green effect. A weird green effect for where is it right here? This little green effect right now. Green effect right here. That's basically how they showed the shot. Was they don't show her appear. They just show her she's already there, and then it flashes bright, and then we see her as in the flesh and stuff. And then of course she takes her little bracelet, pushes the button, and then knocks everybody out because they do that. And what's funny is there's a Wonder Years episode. I don't know if you're familiar with the old show, The Wonder Years. But there's an episode. There's an episode where I think they're dreaming. Right? I think Kevin, the main character, Fred Savage's character, same kid from The Wizard. He's the star. He's the star of the show. He dreams that he's playing Kirk because this show takes place in the '60s, in the late '60s during Vietnam, and of course when Star Trek was airing. And he dreams that I think in class, like he's wearing the outfits, and his girlfriend's the one that he has a crush on is dressed like her, and she uses the bracelet and knocks them all out. And they're like, oh, okay, and then they just have their little way with them and stuff. It was funny, and of course it's funny in that show the gym teacher is played by the emergency medical holographic doctor from Voyager, Robert Picardo. So just another connection. So yeah, there's been a lot of Star Trek's been a very big thing in pop culture, even Spock's brain. So
yep.
But yeah, the whole idea that they figure out they figure out that in order to get to the planet they have to follow like this ion trail, and they realize ion propulsion is something that's even beyond Federation propulsion and stuff. So they go to the Sigma Draconis sector or system, and there's like no way that any of the habitable planets have a civilization that's capable of that. Well, they figure out they find traces of ion propulsion on this one planet that's in its ice age. So they beam down, and there's a bunch of big men. I'm guessing they're like cavemen or something, and they basically question one of the cavemen. And he's like, you're not the others? Who are the others? Oh, they're givers of pain and delight. And when I was a kid, I'm like, what is he talking about? And now every time I watch this, I know what he's talking about, and I laugh every time. Mm-hmm. Basically, these men are basically living in fear of being kidnapped and raped, more or less, by these women.
Essentially.
And it's funny is he's like you said, it's delight too. So he's enjoying it, but at the same time when they're like, hey, we want to go meet these others, like no one wants to find them, which I think is baloney. He does want to find them again so that they can boo chikiwawa, so
yep.
So and they find this cave. And the cave is a booby trap. They have food and weapons, kind of, just laying out there in the open. And if you go further enough to try to grab those things, the door closes and you're in an elevator going all the way down. And of course, they find Spock's brain, and they rescue him and stuff. You already talked about this episode, so
yes.
So it was a very, I mean, even for this was a very there was a lot of forbidden plan in this episode, especially with the teacher. Underground ancient civilization with ancient knowledge and stuff. That's very Forbidden Planet. So
which I
speaking of
still
which,
need to see.
yeah, I'm doing a stream with a few people on Thursday talking about that movie. So stay tuned for that. So yeah, that's this is my number one, Spock's Brain. So love this. I love this episode. Everybody hates it except me.
I don't hate it. I like it, at least from the okay, I'll put it this way. I like it in the same way that I like Star Trek 5. I like to laugh at it.
Yeah, me too. I like Star Trek 5 too. So, what does God need with the starship?
For the same reason they needed Spock's brain.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So yeah, this is yeah, these are my top cheesiest episodes. So these
Yep.
episodes come from just an area of love in my heart and stuff, but with laughter and joy and everything that makes up, cheesy Star Trek is basically in Spock's brain.
Yep.
That's what made me fall in love with the show in the first place.
Yeah,
Besides Space Seed.
and of course this goes without saying, but as cheesy as these episodes are, we would rather watch these any day than anything Kurtzman's coming up with.
Yeah, yeah, I know. So, and these will still be here. Hopefully, they'll never get erased from existence, like like Marty McFly nearly did, and stuff. So, yeah, just keep supporting these things. It's funny. I do want to. They're gonna release the motion picture 4K director's cut in the theater. I signed up for when the tickets will be available because I want to see it for myself. I want to see all the USS Enterprise, all that ship porn in the theater. Hearing Jerry Goldsmith music.
If they release that in my theater here in my town, I'm gonna go see it too.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, with this, I'm curious if they're ever gonna. I'm curious now if they're ever gonna do, even though Robert Meyer Burnett himself it doesn't think it'll ever happen, but if they'll ever do DS9 or Voyager in HD and stuff, that's the other big question. I'm really curious if they'll ever do and stuff. But instead, they're
Right.
putting all that money into new track and stuff. So who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's my take on episode 4 of Trekporials, of Trekporial Adventures of the 735. And if you don't know what 735, that's all the content of Star Trek prior to 2000, prior to J.J. Abrams stuff. So from the first 10 films to all 6 of the original shows, from the original series to the animated show, all the way up to Enterprise. So that's the 735. And I did not come up with that myself. Actually, Clobberin' Times came up with that one. So I mean, I kind
Well,
of
thank
stole
you,
it,
Clobberin' Times.
So yeah. So next week, I don't know if I'm going to do one next week, but if I do, I'm going to get my friend Gary, also known as Garius X, to talk about Deep Space Nine's top 5 Elam, plain and simple Elam Garak episodes. So Elam Garak is the Cardassian Taylor from Deep Space Nine. He's a side character. He's probably one of the greatest characters in that show. So
I believe it's.
so yeah, that's what I'm hoping to do. If not, then it'll be the week after. I'll have to find out and stuff. My friend's not a YouTuber, so it'd be, and so I hope so. Hopefully, we can get this squared away and stuff. So that's what I'm doing next week and stuff. So
Well, as far as what's going on with me, tonight, of course, we have our usual Sunday stream on the Star Wars guys at 9 p.m. And this one's going to be a special one because 2 of my coworkers have seen Star Wars for the first time, and I'm going to bring them on the show and let them sort of share their perspective, at least on the original trilogy. If they have seen beyond that, we'll go into that, but at least on the original trilogy, hearing them talk about it, having seen it for the first time, I'm going to ask them some questions about it. I'm sure they'll have some questions for me. And what's interesting, one of them, so I'll go ahead and share this now. One of them you guys have seen before on my channel. He's my friend named Tyler. I call him our resident Harry Potter expert. The other guy, He's a guy named Charlie Pierce, and he is actually a Doctor Who expert. So it'll definitely be interesting hearing the both of them, because basically Harry Potter and Doctor Who are to them respectively what Star Wars is to me. So hearing the comparisons between those three different properties will definitely be an interesting conversation. And then Monday on the other channel I have, Master Paul's Game Room, you and I are doing something together, Nerdporial, along with some other guests. We are going to be doing a big retrospective discussion on Skyrim.
Oh yeah, Skyrim. Isn't that Game of Thrones? Isn't that George R. R. Martin?
Well, not really.
No,
If
it's
anything, it's
not.
Todd
No, it's
Howard.
not.
It's Todd Howard.
It's totally Todd Howard, and with Todd Howard, you know it's gonna be. It's gonna be buggy.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's Todd Howard.
Yep.
But if everything Todd Howard does is buggy, then that means everything buggy is Todd Howard. Please explain. I'm not programmed to respond in that area.
Illogical. But yes, we're gonna be doing that.
I guess get it. I said programmed. I'm not programmed to respond in that area because there's bugs in that program.
Yes, but it's gonna be the two of us. It's gonna be Cash, and it's also going to be Stone Loki and Purple Valkyrie. So that's gonna be tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern on Master Paul's Game Room, and I hope to see everyone there.
Nice. So, all right then, Paul. Thank you so much for coming out for this episode 4. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you are the new hope. Maybe you're the new hope that'll save Trekporial streams.
Well, hey man, anytime you want to do another one of these on either of our channels, let me know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely want to bring you back. I definitely want to bring, obviously I've had everyone from Tuesday Night Trek on. I have to make a big list of people I want to bring on and stuff,
Did you have Cash on yet?
No, I didn't have Cash on yet.
I'm
trying to figure out what I want. I have to figure out what I want to do with him.
Okay. You also have to figure out whether or not he's going to charge you cash or credit to appear on on your show.
Well, he won't take credit from me. He said this officially. So yeah, So it's Cash. I have to go to the ATM on his account. So that's basically episode 4 of Trekporial. So I try to do these every Sunday, but it really depends on on the guest and what works for them. So I tried the thing with this is if you're interested in being on this, please message me on Twitter or on Discord. Tell me what your favorite aspect of Star Trek is, and let me see if I can figure out what we could do. Because I want the topic to fit the guest. That's my goal. So for some reason, Paul, I thought because you only watched the original series, I figured I'd do something with the original series. And I'm like, what can I do with the original series? We already did top 5 episodes during Tuesday Night Trek. So
and top 5 least favorite.
Yeah, least favorite. So I said, okay, well, how about cheesiest? And I was like, that could lead to a fun stream, and I hope everyone had a fun stream and stuff. So, yeah. So hey, but yeah, this was But if you're interested, please let me know. And if you're a big Star Trek fan, let me know what your favorite thing is, what your favorite show is, your favorite character, your favorite types of episodes, your favorite storylines, whatever. And I'll see what I can do and stuff. So, I mean, obviously, with Mike, Pacific 414, he's a big Klingon. He's a big fan of the Klingon. So what did I do with him?
You did
top 5 Klingon episode.
Mm-hmm.
Top 5 Klingon episodes. Spock, despite his name, Spock is a big Star Trek Voyager fan. So what did I do with Spock? Top 5 Star Trek Voyager episodes. Maybe I could have broke that down further, but when I bring Spock on, we'll do another top 5 Voyager aspect. He told me who his favorite characters in Voyager, so I think I know what I'm going to do next with Spock. So, but yeah, and of course with Crit, I asked Crit what he likes. He's very open. He's like, I love Picard, I love TNG, so we did best Picard episodes. So, and each show was a success in my opinion. So, and this episode's no different. So, I definitely want to keep this up. So yeah, let me know if you're interested in what your favorite types of episodes are.
Absolutely, man. And I tell you what, I already have an idea for one that I want to do. I want to do top 5. Now, this is going to take a while because we need to get much, much further into TNG. What about top 5 Data episodes?
Okay, that'd be an interesting thing. Assuming another guest star doesn't ask for that too.
Of course.
But we'll figure that out. We'll figure that out along the way. And if
Right.
if it does, I can subcategorize it. I'll have to be creative. So yeah, we could do
Right.
something like that. Absolutely. So, but yeah, man. Once again, Paul, thanks you so much for being on. Thank you, chat, Sadikar, Seventh Legion, Donnie, DJ Ronnie G, Zax came by, Pacific came by, Anthroparian came by, Leia Rose, Brian's Gate, the Panawannabe, Phil TMNT came by, Agent Atwood, and Everest Productions, Mr. Lord Crit himself, and stuff. So yeah, so thank you guys for watching. And if you haven't chatted, once again, you're everybody's welcome here, no matter what no matter what your creed or your political affiliation is. Everybody's welcome, no matter what. And yeah, just I'm happy that you guys are here. And once again, stay tuned for the next Trektorial, and of course next Saturday I'm going to be continuing Two Towers. We're going to cover the second half of the film, which is basically the crux of the film. So
Yep.
if you're available, come by for that. And
I will
yeah,
be there for
everybody.
that also.
All right, definitely. Everybody's welcome back from yesterday. So once again, everybody, stay Nerdporial. May the wings of Nerdporials carry you all to a happy Sunday.
Mhm.
Take care. Oh, you want to say your little
yeah.
thing?
Yeah. Real quick, though, I do want to mention Saudakar 7th Legion said, top 5 Wesley episodes, please. Top 5 Wesley episodes that end with him needing to get sent out the airlock. But, yeah.
All right, Sadakar, I'll bring you on and we'll talk the top 5 Will Wheaton episodes. and yeah, so we'll talk about Will Wheaton, and then he'll get pissed off at me.
Why do you
that's
say
what Will
that?
Wheaton does.
Why do you say it like that?
What?
Will Wheaton.
Will. Say Will. Will. Say Wheat. Say Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton.
Oh, I get it. You're referencing Family Guy. Okay. All right. So, again, thank you for having me on here, Nerdporial. All jokes aside, I know we've had this running joke recently of me getting what we're talking about wrong, but for real, whether we're talking Star Wars, whether we're talking Lord of the Rings, whether we're talking Star Trek or anything else, I do genuinely love talking with you. You are one of the smartest, most knowledgeable guys that I know in this community, and your insight, both in everything that I've done with my channel as well as your own, has been absolutely invaluable. But for my outro, thank you guys for watching this. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, my 2 channels, the Star Wars Guys and Master Paul's Game Room. And just remember, everyone, I'll go ahead and do both. Go ahead and do both slogans. The Force is family, and gaming is for everyone. See you guys later.
All right, and once again, may the wings of Nerdporials carry you all to an excellent Sunday. Mm-hmm. All right. Have a great rest of your day. Take care. Have a great week.